Good afternoon, VV Nation. Welcome. Happy Monday, everybody. I see Pennywise, Quick Draw McGraw over there. First one in the comment section. My name is Ryan. Welcome to the channel, especially if this is your first time. How about the Tampa 2-day event, right? So much good information. Friday's presentation, obviously I was doing other videos. So there's some parts I do want to rewatch, but the stuff that I watched, I mean, absolutely phenomenal. Thank you for that. You like my shirt? Michelle was just telling Joey, I know he's got to be sad. It was what, close to 80 and sunny in Florida, Joey? Is that what you had messaged me? Was it Wednesday when you flew down? Yeah. Well, let me tell you, Joey came back to about 32 degrees here in North Carolina. Where are all Ryan's day ones? Thank you, Tabula, you're day one. Bill, day one. Roxar, day one. Pennywise. Most of these names, honestly, I've gotten familiar with. Sorry if I don't know your real names, and no, I'm not asking you to put that out there in YouTube world. So, if I ever misname you, if you ever call him, if we're ever talking in person, by all means, don't hesitate to come up to me and say, hey, this is my screen name on YouTube. Let's have a conversation, right? In today's conversation, it's literally going to be a continuation of Friday's Daily Color Guard Report. Yes, I did the Daily Color Guard Report. It's the king, homie. Damien, I always love your pod. Damien, you're in New York too, right? I believe you are in Brooklyn, right? You should be in Brooklyn. You always type in Brooklyn, VV in the house, right? Now, we don't have Glenn to say that anymore, but I always appreciate it when I hear that from you. XXXXZZZZ. I take it you didn't. You pretty much took the automated name in YouTube. What is the story behind 4 X's and 3 Z's? I'm just curious. That's a good one. But good morning to you as well. Good morning, everybody. Friday's Daily Color Guard Report. We'll go to the chart in a little bit, but essentially we all know the news came out, the tariff news, the Supreme Court ruling, right? The momentum was there around 10 a.m. It shot up. It didn't matter if you looked at the VectorVest Composite, NASDAQ, S&P, whatever you want to look at. I'm sure I didn't look at the Russell, but I imagine they probably jumped up too, right? Let's see here. Like the great ODB, Wu-Tang is for the children. Stop it. I love a good Wu-Tang quote. Okay. Fayetteville. You in Fayetteville? Vietnam? I'm in North Carolina. Oh, I know Fayetteville. Vietnam, right? That's a local. That's only the locals know Vietnam. or if you were in the military at some point. John Boss, none today. We're in the 1 to 2. Yeah, Bill, I saw the news, and honestly, I got a friend's family member. They actually left the storm. They were in Pennsylvania, but yes, anyone in the Northeast right now, be careful out there. I'm seeing the weather, blizzards, so just be careful. Be careful. What's going on with Microsoft? Hopefully Microsoft is shaping up to be a better deal. I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush to go buy stocks today. But Friday, again, we stayed within that momentum. There's a couple candlesticks there, right? We had a little flag pattern, it looked like, broke out to the downside, tried to retest that high, but failed to meet a new high after the initial news. That's why I clearly said in the Daily Color Guard Report, wait for the follow through. Don't try to be a hero and jump in the market, especially if you were long and you bought stocks. I would have been pretty selective in stocks if I was going to buy Friday. But just be careful out there right now. We got 3 red lights across the board within the VectorVest software. So I just want to tell everyone, be careful out there. As you can see, the pressure is on the Dow Jones. It was down about 600 points to the downside. Now it's about 750 here. NASDAQ over about 1.25% to the downside. But look at the VectorVest Composite. Broad market. It would be different if Dow Jones was down 1.5, NASDAQ 1.2 roughly, and VectorVest Composite, maybe 0.5, right? We can see that the damage is kind of, contained, but because of the broad market here, hitting 1.32% and the day is not over, just be careful. Just be careful here. Learn something from Tampa seminars. DBA may be setting up for NPI. There you go. There's a little nugget from Tampa. I'm telling you, there's a lot of good nuggets from there. I don't pretend to know everything. I am going to watch Saturday's presentation. I watched majority of it, but there are some items in on Friday's presentation. Again, if you're not going to take advantage of the the offers, and I'll have the page here, But essentially, the recording on YouTube, it'll be there for a couple days. I think Joey, a couple others are, editing that, making it nicer. Once it's done, it will be pulled from YouTube. So just a heads up, Tampa 2 Day, it's going to be pulled from YouTube. If I had a guess, probably roughly a week, maybe a little longer. Depends how quick Joey wants to edit it, right? But then it will be put in VectorVest University, right? Joseph says bubble popping. I've been talking about a little bit of a bubble. Again, I've been crazy bubble talk, but I see pockets of bubbles. Microsoft way overvalued, above 500s, came back down to reality. There's a couple other stocks. I'm not here to pick on anyone. Ryan, you planning to hold Nvidia's through earnings? I don't hold Nvidia personally. We can take a look at Nvidia. I was being optimistic with that 200-day moving average pivot we saw, but it's still in the channel. It's still in the channel. The question is, and Joey, can we do a poll? You got a moment for a poll? Let's do this. Will Nvidia be the savior of the markets once again? Yes or no? That'll be the poll. Joey, put it up when you get a chance. But I'm just curious. Okay, we've been in this situation before. A lot of gloom and doom in the market, right? That's why you got the VectorVest sub and software. We can take advantage of that on both sides of the aisle. But I don't know about this. I don't know if Nvidia is going to be the savior. And that's not a VectorVest opinion. That's just my opinion. I got hopes for it because the value keeps stretching. Again, I've said it before, Nvidia is on my mom's radar, or I'm putting Nvidia on my mom's radar, but she's more conservative in nature and opening up a position in Nvidia right before earnings with I think it was about 8% potential swing, that the options market is seeing. No, I'm not going to put her in that position. So, if you're holding Nvidia, if you are, I don't know, a lot of people here are holding Nvidia. I think Nvidia beats in earnings this week, but it won't move the needle. Pennywise, I would be shocked if they didn't beat earnings, honestly. But yes, I think there's just bigger concerns right now. We'll see. VV Nation, please add ADX indicator to mobile app. Interesting. I know that ADX is a tool that's heavily utilized by our coaches here, especially in swing trading and in the Jockey Club. If you're not familiar with those group coachings, and hopefully you had some exposure this weekend with Steve Chappell and Jerry D'Ambrosio. Phenomenal coaches. Phenomenal. That's where I learn a lot of my stuff from, is from them, and honestly, the results I saw, because I don't keep up with the results, but they're topping, 30% over the last 2 years. I like it. Ismay also needs to be added to VectorVest. Let me write that one down. All right. Now let's get over here to a screen capture window. There we go. Now we're in the VectorVest software. You can see we're 3 ticks into the red when it comes to the market timing gauge. Pressure is on in the market, right? Just be careful. Be defensive. We had one green light I talked about last week in the daily color guard report. And if you do not have access to the VectorVest software, you're missing a lot more than just the software. You're missing that daily guidance from the daily color guard report. And the guidance only tiers up, depending on what package you have, right? NASDAQ is now higher than it was at the start of November 4th, 4 months ago. Omnibus. I don't know, that could definitely be the case. We'll take a look at it here. And actually, before we get too far, let's take a look at some of these. Let's do QQQ, SPY. Let's do silver. Let's do gold. Let's do VectorVest composite. We'll throw some IBIT. I'm kind of curious to see what Bitcoin's doing. Be careful with Bitcoin. I'm still looking at 40,000. That's just me personally. It's got to hold that 60. Otherwise, 40 is looking real good. Here's Q's. A lot of consolidation. Almost looks like Nvidia, right? A lot of consolidation here. If we do RT relative timing, it is now crossed below 1 in unfavorable territory. Look what happened last time it was in unfavorable territory, right? March, April, tariffs sound familiar, right? That's a lot of pressure, right? Right now, we're still within the channel. If you break the channel, yes, I obviously have a concern right now. But if you really take this swing low out, which is, what is that, 579, that's a lot. Depends, how much wiggle room you're willing to give some of these stocks. But really, here is the consolidation I see. Zoom in here to a 3-month time span. I can't even see that number. It's 530, 595. Why is it so blurred? All right. But yeah, RT, not liking any of this. If I'm going to be aggressive, at least from a trader's perspective here, you can see it right here. Boom, 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 boom. Right? It's just getting tighter and tighter, that wedge. Look at this. You can see there's the support floor, but look at the buyers getting rejected, lower and lower levels, right? So if I'm going to be optimistic in the Qs, clearly probably just want to break above this trend line, right? Would be my first objective. Let's see here. QQQ is just Nvidia and friends. I'm not going to disagree with that. And let's just call it what it is, but Nvidia has got to be the savior here, right? But what I am concerned about Nvidia, there's also a lot of software companies reporting this week, big ones. And we all know about the overvalued bubble concerns when it comes to software and AI, how it's going to affect that. Snow is being one of them. I'm pretty sure Snow's on the same day. But just be careful, because even if Nvidia excites investors a little bit, beats earnings, obviously the guidance is going to be important. But if some of the software companies, can't get investors excited, I think that's going to affect Nvidia in the long run for sure. Here's SPY. If I'm going to put a support level, you can see the consolidation, right? It's very similar. There it is. All right there. We take out this low, which we've got 3 touches right now, definitely would be concerned. That's around 676 on the SPY. CoreWeave, yep, CoreWeave as well. I guess you need a computer for this platform. I didn't get all that information on my tablet. I will be honest, Edward, yes, you are going to need a Microsoft operating system for VectorVest 7. On the tablet, you can get the MLP, you can get probably the mobile app, depending on the software, the tablet. But as far as VectorVest 7, you will need an actual operating system. And I do know, MLP is kind of the first step. There's going to be another step. I don't know what's going to come out, but that's going to be more in line with some of the tools that you're seeing in VectorVest 7. I don't know all the tools and all that information. Hopefully this summer. But that web-based platform, it's only going to get better from here. It's only going to get better. And I know web-based is just easier for life, right? Whether you're at the office and you can't download a software, you're on Apple, whatever it may be. Now, again, SPY, just kind of, be careful. Obviously, if your stocks hit certain stops, or your criteria, you might be, building up some cash right now. But the market's consolidating. We take a look at here's silver. This was, you can see this. Let's go way back. Me and silver. Really, any asset classes I've been talking about the cup and handle nature of some of these here. Where did that go? Where's the wall? There's the wall I'm looking for. So I just kind of went down here at the low, at the high. So that was kind of the cup and handle target right there. And if we zoom back into a 6-month time span, if we use that target, see where that puts us. Kind of interesting. So we had a little bit of extra exuberance after the target was reached, but then it gapped right back to the target, right? So if I had a guess with silver, obviously I like this high, taking out the prior high, need a nice swing low that's higher than this prior one. But really a conviction to the upside, I'm looking around $87 on silver. Any real conviction there. I've said it before, if you're patient, just because a lot of times these asset classes do come back, do take some breathers, you could typically look closer to the top of the prior cup here, which is around $50. I think it's 49. We'll just say 50. But yeah, if you take out the swing low here around 60, I would look at the prior, the top of the cup, right? Just for the natural retest. I talk about a retest all the time. This is getting emotions and geopolitical and all that stuff out of the silver trade or gold trade or Bitcoin trade, right? And trading the chart, not the news. That's the news points you in the wrong direction, right? The web version is nice. I've had some exposure with the web version. It's more simpler. It's a little bit different angle because with the MLP, the first version, one of the biggest things or hurdles for new subscribers is just learning everything in VectorVest 7, right? Because we try to explain it, we put it out there. So I put it like this. MLP is kind of for those that, maybe you trust the software, maybe you want more hands-off approach, but it literally tells you what to do and points you in the direction. VectorVest 7, Obviously it's got a little bit more bells and whistles, and there's a couple different avenues you can take, but both are very nice. Both are very nice. I can't wait to see the next progression in it. But here's silver. Again, I'd look at this floor here because I'm actually looking to buy some silver coins. Some random family member, they inherited some silver. And so I'm trying to make a deal with them right now because I like the idea of having physical silver personally. But as of right now, I'm not too optimistic because as soon as we broke this prior swing high, I mean, look at the candlestick, just upper wick, pretty flat right now. So be careful. I would look at the swing low here. You see the prior swing low. So if we break that, maybe to get a little bit more defensive. Otherwise, see some confirmation to the upside. Really get back above this target here. You can see the gap stopped right there. Price action stopped here. Got a little gappy up after we hit the target, and then it gapped right back down to the target. So just be careful if you're trading silver and gold, because historically it likes to move nice and steady, but now there's a lot of extra volatility, right? Extra volatility. Thanks CD Drive, doing very well with the basics. Read news to boot. Oh, read news to boot. Okay, nice. All right. Let's see, what's the next item here? We got gold. Here is gold. Nice little trend line I've been using on gold. Let's zoom back on GLD2. There's the cup here for gold. A little bit of wobbly. I did this on a video before. Again, same kind of technique. Top to or bottom to top. So you can see it reached here, got some consolidation, but it's continuing to climb. So that is, the move is turning very parabolic for sure. I like this trend line on GLD. Again, this is spot here. So as long as it stays above the trend line, I like it. But you can see it likes to retest this trend line sometimes. So, again, I don't know what's going to happen geopolitically. But the further you get away from that trend line, the more it's getting a little stretched, right? But as long as it stays above that trend line, I'm not going to be too concerned on gold right now. You can see it in a down day. Look where the buyers are. It actually gapped up, and GLD close to session highs, right? Very little wick at the top. So if you are thinking about buying, other than gold and silver, maybe some commodity-based items, I'm not going to be too excited. Here's VectorVest Composite. Finally broke it. As far as the VectorVest Composite, that's where it retested right there. Yep, there's the retest. That's the low. That's 78.55. Again, that's still some room to drop there. So be careful, obviously. But this is, taking this out, that is what I would be concerned about. We'll see. I'm not here to predict anything. Pennywise agreed CRM is in a world of hurt. Ooh, we're going to take a look at CRM. All right, now, oh, wait, that's right, Bitcoin. Duh, here's Bitcoin. Here's my levels. Be careful with Bitcoin right now. Be careful, because I know if it breaks that 60,000, I'd have to look at it on TradingView to see the historical chart. But I've said it before. I've showed it, on TradingView. I've been pretty bearish ever since the retest. It was around 94, 96,000. Clearly around 60,000 now. That's working out just fine. As far as those shorts, that bounce off to 60,000, and that was the first level that just about every trader is looking at. Be careful if it gets much momentum there. And we're not seeing that quite today. But if it breaks that 60,000, logically, I'm thinking about 40, close to 40. And if you look at Bitcoin's volatility, historically, it's got big pullbacks. Big pullbacks. Bitcoin dropped to 60,000, but went up to 68 and settled at 65. So yeah, that's the pivot I'm talking about. The 60,000 support level. Everyone's looking at it, right? So if that fails, please don't marry Bitcoin. I know Steve calls it Bitcoin. I've talked about Bitcoin and crypto on this channel quite a bit here, especially once I noticed the cup and handle and it broke. And I did the target. It was right around 120,000. Shared that with you. But since then, I haven't been that optimistic on Bitcoin, right? If things change in Bitcoin, I think, there's some opportunities there. As far as being bullish, I'll let you know. Trust me. All the software getting killed. Yeah, let's take a look at some stuff here. Let's take a look at here. I will say I have a little issue with my VectorVest 7 software here. I was able to add Nvidia. What are the other big software companies? Yeah, John says Crapto by Glenn. But Glenn bought some. And then in the same boat. As long as crypto can make me some money, That's fine. That's fine. Is going to be rough again. Now, okay, there was CRM, right? Salesforce. We can just add Palantir to the list. I'm just curious what Palantir is doing. But as you can tell, I got 3 symbol headings. I know it's not what I want. That's the issue I'm trying to fix. I got to get with Boston after this. And the font is so tiny, so I'm not going to spend a lot of room here. CRWV. Oh, CoreWeave. Pan W. CRWD. No. Snow, that's the other one I was talking about. Yeah, we'll look at Microsoft too. CRDO, let's look at that one. See what's going on here. Oh, it's already in the list? All right. Because Nvidia we know is undervalued. Actually, look, Nvidia's up today. Maybe you shouldn't be sleeping on Nvidia. The market's down 700 points. Nvidia's up half. Like I've said it before, if Nvidia is way overvalued or on par with its value, I'd be a little bit nervous. But that value keeps diverging away, and you'll see in just a moment what I'm talking about here. But look at the software is already getting killed. Down 9%, down 8%. Palantir down another 130. I've been telling y'all since ever broke that ascending channel, be careful with your Palantir. It's on you now at this point, unfortunately. Don't marry a stock. I don't know where the bleeding's going to stop because it's close to $200. AMD, Broadcom, no, those aren't the ones. We're going to get to your stocks in just a moment. Again, this is not quite looking normal for me. So let me just get right into the charts here. I'm going to switch to the new video layout. This is the new layout I've been using for the last few weeks. A lot of people tend to like it. Let's see here. It's somewhere over here. Oh, there it is. All right, scroll this over. Boop, boop, boop. This is what I'm talking about. Look, we just draw a little line here. I mean, you can get as technical as you want about Nvidia, but what's getting me excited? Look at the value. It's going up, right? Make that a little bit bigger. For those that are watching on a small screen, look at the value. Just keeps going up. The technicals, this is perfect breathing weather here for Nvidia. Their 200-day was this last pivot. And actually, since we're talking about the 200-day, let's just see. Yep, there's that pivot right here. Still above. I like the setup. RT's going back in favorable territory here. Momentum picking up for the bulls. Earnings tomorrow. Now the market's it's used Nvidia as a saving grace in the past several times. I like this, but no, I'm not gonna be getting into it or telling anyone to get into it before a potential 8-point swing. But if you are, I would be more on the optimistic side. But just know it's in this channel, so if it breaks out below it, which around 165, so it's got some room, even if it gaps down a little bit. Still in the channel, maybe another pivot off that 200 could get people excited. But really, if it breaks above this channel here, that's when I would get excited. But the value, that's where it's at. Just the value. I've been holding Nvidia, not selling, but also not buying, just holding the shares I have. Penny-wise, have you been at least doing some option strategies? I mean, Nvidia hasn't done a whole lot. So if you own shares of Nvidia, take advantage of some income strategies, when it comes to Nvidia. If you don't know how to do that, again, that's what the Tampa event was all for, showing you, pointing you in the right direction. So just be careful. But I like Nvidia. I'm just not going to get my mom into it right before earnings. If I got to hear what they hear. Ultimately, if there's a big gap up, I'd probably look for the retest, prior support, and then start her entry from there. Here's Royal Bank of Canada. Other than software, it's a lot of banks, a lot of foreign entities as well. A lot of them having to do with Canada. These look pretty good. You see the base here. Almost looks like a little bit of a squeeze. Let's actually switch this layout because this one can get a little bit more complicated. There we go. But look at that value jumping up. It's still above our stop price. Rising earnings per share. I like this. I like this a lot, actually. I think Broadcom's earnings will have bigger impact. When is Broadcom's earnings, Pennywise? When is that? I'm just curious. And you might not be wrong, to be honest. Toronto to Dominion. You can see I've looked at it before here. A little bit consolidation. Broke out of that consolidation. Nice steady uptrend here. 20-day EMA holding for the most part. But look at the value. Just keeps going. buy recommendations and not very spotty buys. I mean, these are long durated buy recommendations. I like what I see here when it comes to these Canadian banks. Earnings per share went from what? Shy of 550, now closer to $7. I like it. See, yeah, 671 on the earnings per share. Here's Credo, right? This is where I said the pockets of bubbles can occur, right? Now, if you're in a software company, semiconductor, I'll even throw out rare earth out there, right? If you're way over, look over, right? So here's Credo. We see it. See this all happen all the time, right? Price action gets going. Value taking, make this a little bigger here. Value taking a little while to catch up, right? The fundamentals have to catch up. So now you see price action, and this happens a lot, like not just one or two stocks. This happens more often than not. Price will eventually make its way down, value start rising. They'll meet somewhere in the middle. And ironically, I've got two little lines here between 122 and 103. Value can get up a little bit more. If we go hold a higher low, this might turn into a good position at, over $200. Was this a good stock? I mean, as long as it was working, but it stopped working, right? It was just overvalued, right? And that's where a lot of the concerns are right now in the market. So this one here, I think we can shake out a little bit more. I wouldn't be in a rush to buy it quite yet. The value's kind of flat. Let me see that value go, because the last thing we want to see is this value start dropping, right? Because then you got price action dropping, value dropping. But the sell pressures, I mean, look at the first sell here. And this was a good warning sign right here. The first sell came in when the stock's around $133. Right now, the stock's around $119. It hit a low shy of 100. Look at the low, 94, right? And sells just appearing frequently ever since then. RT below 1. So all the warning signs were there. You can throw this in a watch list if you'd like. So I like the rising earnings per share. I like the value rising, but just not the time, right? And obviously with 3 red lights on the color guard right now, and it ain't the time, right? You're catching a falling knife. You're probably going to cause yourself more of a headache than anything. Think about Netflix. I'm still waiting on Netflix. People, have some patience. Once you get in the habit of letting stocks come to you, money will come. I'm telling you, just stay disciplined. Stay disciplined. Broadcom earnings, March 4th. Interesting. I'm getting a tooth pulled 2 days after. I'm be like, when he's back here. So that should be a interesting live. Now it's on Friday, so there's nothing live there. But by Monday, I'll be back to normal. But yeah, this is just too much pressure. Too much pressure on price. If value keeps climbing and price keeps dropping, I think there's just better deals. Here's Microsoft. So you see the pivot here, right off of the fill, right at the base. Not much pivot. 2 days, came back down. Again, this is another stock I was talking, put it on my mom's radar. She hasn't bought Microsoft yet. Especially with red lights. We've had one green light in the price column, which was Friday in the past little bit. And then immediately 3 red lights. So no, I'm not going to have her jump in this one yet. Yeah, it's getting more attractive, but just the momentum to the downside, right? Let's see here. Let's go back a little bit further, because if this breaks, that's the bottom one right there. Interesting. Oh, look at this little line here. This one might be my backup. We'll see what happens here at 364, right? We'll see what happens. But yeah, Microsoft, I like it. Look at the value, EPS, one of the largest companies in the world for sure. But we got fresh sell ratings. Let the stock come to you, right? Let's see here. And I know, I've heard it before, buying, sometimes the best time to buy is when it's most uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, but I'm not into the buying yet. For some reason, if we break this 385 low, I don't know, 364, 365, somewhere in this range here, might just happen. So be careful. Lots of snow in New Jersey. I said that at the beginning of the live stream. If you missed it, my prayers are out there for you. I see it on the news, blizzards in a lot of those states up there. Just be careful. Be careful out there. Here's Salesforce, or CRM. Now, this one's interesting because this is undervalued. I know there's some AI concerns here. Let's see where, this is my support. Clearly we broke that. If I'm looking for levels of test, I'd look for swing highs here, right? So we just a little line, see what we got here. Here's Salesforce, somewhere in here maybe. Oh, and we got a test from the top. And, oh, we broke that one, so it was going to be this one here. Well, I don't know which one it's going to be, but so we broke that one. I can probably look closer to here, 166. And keep an eye on this value, right? Another thing you might want to keep an eye on is growth rate and earnings. Let's see here. Growth rate's dropping. Let's see what sales growth rate is doing. Also dropping. Items I don't want to see, right? Growth rate and earnings, kind of all over the place, but been dropping now for the last few months. Let's go let's go 6 months. Jersey, 2 feet predicted. Oof. Oof, 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 oof. There's no way. Yeah, look at this. It's still approaching this line here. I'd be careful. You know, Salesforce, I like the value. I know it's kind of right in the top here. Let's see this value turnaround. And here's my lines down here from that prior swing high. Let's see if there's any kind of pivot. But I want to be jumping in front of this one. I think CRM changes per seat on products. Providence, the joys of spring, if you can just wait. I did see spring forward is coming soon. It's coming soon. I think that's March 8th, if I'm not mistaken. And, due to AI replacing humans in certain office jobs. Yeah, you know, just the growth rate and earnings alone is giving me, let's see here. It almost got cut in half, right? We're about 30%. Now we're at 15%. So the growth rate and earnings have been cut in half. Earnings per share is rising. The value is there. Yeah, $350, $400. I mean, yeah, you're paying a little bit of a premium, but with all the concerns, keep an eye on this value. But I'm not there for this one. There's definitely pressure. Here's Dominion Energy. This one also reports, I believe it is today. Overvalued, but look at the value rising here. If we go into a 6-month time span, earnings per share is rising, sales growth rate. Only the earnings growth rate is dropping, right? And I know this is a utility company, which was one of the few sectors I saw. So, you know, utilities might do well as well. You know, they're historically seen as kind of a safe haven during volatile markets. We'll see how that turns out. But buy ratings here, I kind of like this. It's at the growth rate. You know, it's still positive at 9%. But I like the momentum of the stock, the direction of it. Lower left, upper right, value rising, earnings per share rising. Not a bad stock. Here's ServiceNow. I said it before. Here, 1 year. Let's scroll back. Way overvalued. Look right where it came to. Our valuation. You know how many times on YouTube I was called crazy? VectorVest, your value indicator is so wrong. How is a stock trading, you know, way above your value? It's because it can trade whatever it wants, right? The value is intrinsic value, right? It doesn't matter what, you know, just because, you know, I saw a news story, I want to buy it at $200, right? I think now will eventually bounce back. I'm not going to say it's not going to. I like it at these levels much more there. So let's see where, you know, some good opportunities might be. Let's scroll back here. I can already see my pivots. So I'm going to do a freehand line. I'd probably want to see what happens around this level, which is exactly where we stopped, right? They're probably this level. Because you see consolidation here. It actually looks like we might have broke that. So I'd probably look down here, which is around 85. Right now it's at 93. And we'll see what happens. But yes, now we're actually getting to a more reasonable value, right? Someone willing to pay for now at $200. Hey, that could work out as long as, you know, as long as you're making money, but you're not getting a good deal on it, right? You're paying a premium. Now that premium's kind of washed away. Now there's some AI fears, obviously, with software, and this might get pushed a little bit lower because of that market sentiment. But we know now we're getting a good value. So now the second half of the equation is we got to find the good pivot point, right? Where would this stock price like to find a bottom? We see the first pivot here, but it might take out the swing low. I'm probably looking around here, around 85. I have started trusting in VV. Thank you, Rockstar. I've been open with this. I am most of my experience is day trading options. By nature, I shouldn't be much of a value guy, right? But there's just too many examples. It's hard to believe I've been going on this now almost 3 years on the YouTube channel where that value just doesn't end up being right. And there might be some short-term momentum and diverges from value, but more often than not, we see it come back at some point, right? Some law firms now have AI doing paralegal work instead of humans. There's a whole lot of jobs being replaced by AI. That comes into another subject. But yeah, AI is going to disrupt a lot of things. Software looks like that's the business it's being. So why would you want to be in an overvalued paying a premium for these software companies? Well, the market said they're not going to be. That's why you see them coming back down to their valuations, right? Here's Palo Alto. Just broke my support level. You see my little zone here. Actually, let me scoot this over so you guys can see better. There we go. That way I'm not in the way here. Maybe make me a little smaller. I'm getting big. It's all this hair. All the hair and now that's in the stock charts, right? Like, Ryan, I can't see the candlesticks. Your hair's right in the way. Ryan, look at the price versus value of CRM. I think I've got it in this list, John. If not, we can definitely look at that. CRMI. CRM Salesforce. What's CRMI? Is that a leveraged ETF? But Palo Alto, again, look how far it's away from our value. Look at all the examples of software stocks. I mean, I know this one's securities, probably typically seen as a little bit more important. And that's maybe why it's not feeling the pressure, kind of like Palantir, but still way overvalued. Let's just go back here. It's been overvalued for quite some time here, right? And then we are now lower. Think about if you bought it over here. This was 2024, almost 2 years ago. It's lower than it was 2 years ago, right? So anytime I get in an overvalued position, you got to get into the technicals, right? Because you can't believe in the stock. Look at this. There's the trend line. Voila, broke it. That's the trend line. Probably would have, definitely been concerned by here. Looks like a nice level support. Got above it, but we showed cracks in that trend line right after the first break, right? But yeah, Palo Alto, be careful. If I'm looking for a little pivot, probably right here is going to be your first pivot. You just see the candlesticks naturally. So I want to, personally, I want to fall for that enthusiasm. Might just be another little pivot trap. I'd let it get closer to value. It's just a personal opinion here. That's a lot of price pressure. All right, here's Palantir. Look at value. It's moving in the right direction. And this is what I mean. Look at value here. It's realizing that Palantir is doing some big things in the background. The value was $8. Now, value is $23. There's a couple bags there when it comes to value, right? That value is doubled multiple times. Now, the price action just went crazy, right? It just went crazy. That's what I'm talking about. This ascending channel, broke it, retested it from the bottom. That was the last great opportunity there to take profits. Now it's a cup, right? Look where we're falling for the base, right at the top of the cup. We'll see if the top of the cup holds. Similar trading scenarios. I'm talking to silver. We're just not there yet, and we'll see if we get there. But yeah, if that top of the cup doesn't hold, look at the value. It's way down here, and it's Palantir. I get it. It's probably going to be like a Tesla, and I don't think I'd be shocked if it went to $30 in the near future. I would think more closer to 100. If we do break the top of this cup, maybe try to find level support around where the bottom of this cup was basing out at. Okay, but look, sell pressure is on. Sell recommendation is on. Down today. If you take out that swing low here, this is my support level, right? After that, I don't see much support until $91. So just a heads up there. Lots of stock charts dealing with chart crackosity. Yes, John. I love a good laugh. You guys are awesome. My Palantir position is still up 660%. There ain't nothing wrong with that, Pennywise. But again, ever since it broke this ascending channel, and I'm pretty sure, Pennywise, you're familiar with options. You can get creative and make money in this in a down way. But if you're new to Palantir, if you're new to stock, and how to hedge a position, at least start protecting profits when you see something like this, right? Now down here, you're in a different scenario, right? But if we take out this, I'll tell you right now, I'm looking down here. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yeah. So yeah, Pennywise. So it's different for you because you know how to do that. I know how to do that. I'm trying to teach my mom how to do that. She's she's too busy skiing out in Colorado. So if you got a lot of money, whether it's Palantir, whether it's an Nvidia, whether it's whatever stock, I'm telling you right now, Ron Wheeler, the retirement segment, retirement group coaching that he's a part of, that's going to be more so on that side of things. You know, he might teach you a couple of nuggets that you could use when it comes to, you know, his general URS, his, you know, his, what do you say, income strategy, essentially. But yeah, just keep that in mind. If you don't know how to trade options, if you don't know contra ETFs, you got to know when to take your profits, right? Because looking at this one here, perfect example. Palo Alto. You know, it hit its high back here and it keeps going down. What was the other one? That was, now was way back here. Keeps going down, right? Stay defensive. You got to have your line in the sand somewhere. Now, if Palantir was undervalued, or at least the value was $100, I'd probably be singing a little bit different of a tune right now. But it's not. The value is $23. And I'm not here to just call out anybody. I'm just here to tell you what the VectorVest software is telling me. That tends to be right time and time again, right? So just keep that in mind. You know, if I see a little bit more life and value tick up when it comes to Palantir, that would make me excited. That would make me excited. But right now, I'm not seeing that. You know, I had no problem saying it when Michael Burry did his little short thing. Nvidia wasn't the problem. You know, the accounting regulator or whatever, you know, that's a different story. But Palantir, just looking at value within the VectorVest software, problem, right? Look at these other ones. Problem, which looks like the problem's getting solved right now. It's coming back down to our valuation. Michael says, would you buy puts on Palantir? I wouldn't buy a put right as it's at my level support here, right? You know, I have my little lines here. You know, I'd have to either break above this, showing some confirmation to buy the puts, below this here. Because I don't want you to buy puts and then we don't break this and this is the level support, right? Because I talked about this. But yeah, if we break that, you probably do some puts, and honestly, you might want to, you know, get a little bit more defensive as it reaches this level, because you might get some bounce off these. But for some reason, I'm still thinking somewhere down here though. Palantir always highly overvalued in many reasons, including their off the chart rule of 40. What do you mean by that, Bill? Off the chart rule of 40. Interesting. But yeah, no, I've said it before. My cousin, who I get a lot of my semiconductor knowledge from and stuff, Palantir is ahead of the curve, and they don't have much competition for what they do. So I see why people are paying a premium, but just be careful. You don't want to be on the wrong side of that premium at the end of the day. Here's CrowdStrike. God, look, their value, not only if it's overvalued, but this is even more of a concern. The value is dropping. Look at this. If I go to Palantir, at least it's rising, right? My concern of Palantir, if the value starts to roll over, right? If the value starts to roll over, definitely would be throwing up that as a thing. But see, Palo Alto, overvalued, value kind of stagnant. So yeah, the last thing I want is value dropping, right? Because how far is this value going to drop? If I use a, let's see here, let's do a horizontal line. The value was around 95, and then now we're around 35. Ooh. That value's down, what, 60% roughly? Yeah. No. Y'all going to have a headache dealing with this. No, this is telling me that damage is not even done. Like it hasn't even started. We're just getting the fresh sales. I don't like this one. I'm sorry. But with value dropping, earnings per share is higher, but just kind of all over the place. It's not as steady Eddie as I'd like. Look at the growth rate in earnings as well. It went from 30%, 31% now to -1. -1. And yes, Mike, I'm just giving you the same advice. All right, I don't give advice, but the same thing I would look at, right? I don't want to buy a put at a level of support, right? Yeah, if it breaks it, nice, you might make some money, but I want at least some confirmation that we're going to break that level, right? I don't want you to buy the put and we just, start to, move up, right? If I don't have a crystal ball, but just looking at charts, that's where my mind would think. But as far as CrowdStrike, no. I mean, we're right. Let's just look at this today. Look at no buyers in sight, even yesterday. Let's look at the 1 day here. Let's get rid of value. Ooh, no. Okay. I don't want to pick on anyone else. I don't want to pick on CrowdStrike anymore. If you're holding the stock, all I'm going to say is be disciplined. You got to stop the bleeding somewhere. And I know if you own it, you're probably not liking what I have to say, but you got to stop bleeding somewhere. This morning, out of the gate, when it took out this prior low, that would have been my warning sign. Otherwise, I mean, look at the 20-day EMA. Testing it from the bottom in over and over. I've said this is one of the easiest things you can do in trading, right? Look at the 20-day EMA here in an uptrend. It tests it from the top end, right? It's typically, usually as long as it's working, usually one of the better entry points, right? You want to hit it around the 20 and, and just ride it up. As soon as it breaks it, though, look at this. You get the retest from the bottom, and it does it the same on the top end. So, 20-day EMA, that's why I got it there. Just a simple one. I'm looking to buy calls, CrowdStrike, Dead Cat. Interesting. All right, here's Snowflake. Same scenario. Let's look at value. Nope, I'm not liking any of this. And this right here, that's where you got this little pivot from. See this little optimism, this pivot here on Snowflake, right? And that's prior consolidation. If I zoom in, you see a little bit better. That's all this was probably. Consolidation, price came down, met that consolidation. Buyers came in. Just nice little technical pivot, right? But look at the 20-day EMA. Again, rejection. Nothing is saying, hey, this thing is changing courses. And if you got the VectorVest software, this stock is still way overvalued and caught in the crosshairs of the worst place you probably want to be as a stock right now, which is software, AI concerns, right? Not a good place to be. Rule of 40, revenue growth plus adjusted. Oh, gotcha. Operating margin income. Interesting. Let me write that down. All right, I'll take a look at that. Now that's babies. But yeah, that's not what you want. That's not what you want to be in. I mean, if you're, if it was me, every time this thing gets close to 20, I'd get bearish on them, whether it's a contra ETF, a put, whatever, however you want to create it, until it stops working, right? Until we get it back above the 20. And then I just play to the game to the upside, right? But as of right now, with this valuation so low, I don't know if the game's over. All right. Wow, that was actually really good. I'm surprised that took so long, but hopefully, that value relationship, making some sense to these software companies here. So now I'm just going to take your stocks. How many likes do we got here? Joey, can you tell me by chance? Let's see here. Hit that like button. Nvidia rule of 40 equals 120. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research in that. Take a little more research of that, okay? All right. Hit that like button one more time right now. Let's see here. Let me just take this over. Oh, no. There we go. All right. Let me get 7 stocks here. I got to go to your picks. This thing has been a little finicky today. There we go. Delete that. All right. Nvidia will be the savior of the market. No 55% yet. Oh, pretty split when it comes to Nvidia. All right, let me start here. First stock up is Ken. LRCX. MNST. TSM. TSM, that's one of my best positions right now in my 2026 portfolio. CRWV. CoreWeave. Oh, iron. SND. SND by itself? Or did you mean SNDK? Russa R. Let me know. We'll add that one. Iron. LRCX. Oh, wait, that one's already in. Okay, that's actually hits it right there. I just need to figure out I think Broadcom's earnings will prove to be more significant to the market than Nvidia's. You know, I like that Broadcom is going into earnings a little bit more fairly valued, right? All right, we'll just do S&D, Smart Sand. All right, here's the stocks here. Okay, that was an S&D. Perfect. Like I said, my font's not working on my computer, so I'm going to get right to the graphs here. That's probably so small, I can barely see it. All right, here's Lam Research. What do I see? I see a stock that was moving up in tangible value, investment friendly, now is just getting overvalued, right? So my line in the sand, probably going to run in tangent right around the stop price. Yep. Actually, the stop price goes maybe cut you out a little earlier. You see it's tightening it up a little bit, closer to $200. If I use just a trend line here, it's going to be putting around 190 right now. But earnings per share is rising, growth rate's rising, sales growth rate coming in at 22%. The stock looks good here. I just want to see if the RV is still favorable after this big monster move. And stock went from $100 now to over 200. Let's just see here. So you can see once it kind of started diverging and picking up momentum here, you see the RV kind of moving to the downside. But guess what? RV still favorable. So if I am going to get into an overvalued position, this is what I want to find or see. I want to see that earnings per share rising. I want to see good sales growth rate and earnings rising. RV above 1, right? Life and value still rising. So even though the stock is overvalued, these items down here can make me feel a little bit better, right? But at the end of the day, it's still overvalued, and we're seeing that a lot in the stocks. I don't, much past this trend line, much past our stop price. Be careful if it starts to pull back, okay? Does memory? Yeah, I like memory chips. I like memory. I know that's the next stage, and that's one of the big reasons why I told Micron. Lam Research, I'm wondering how they match up with Samsung, because I haven't really followed up with it too much, but I know Samsung and another company, if I'm not mistaken, was that Lam Research? No, I think it was SanDisk, right? That kind of stole some of Micron's thunder. We'll see. No crowd today, must be behaving. Here's TSM. Phenomenal powerhouse stock. Nice lower left, upper right, moving in tangent with value, not getting crazy overvalued. Earnings per share also moving to the upside. Growth rate higher than it was 12 months ago. Sales is lower. Let's see here. Sales coming at 25%. Let's see where the forecast started at here. So 12 months ago, sales is at 37. So yeah, it's dropping. And that's not a good sign, because if they're selling less, right, that means the demand for all the chips they make, which is pretty much about every important chip out there, right? That's kind of a concerning sign to see the sales growth rate drop that much. I'm just going to throw that out there. But overall, I still like the stock. RT still above 1. It's a phenomenal company. I still hold it in my 2026 portfolio. And again, I can't sell those positions. I'll show you my current portfolio, which there's no positions in. And with 3 red lights, I wasn't going to jump in on Friday just because there was 1 green light there. Here's SanDisk. What I like about this, the stock, yes, it's got momentum, but look at the momentum behind the valuation, right? Valuation now approaching just over $6. I like this. You can see the 20-day EMA. We talked about it before, right? It's, using those little bounces, retesting it from the upper end. Now, if it breaks that 20-day EMA, you got a little bit of a wiggle room on the stop price, but if you start to see a pattern of retesting it from the bottom end, it's not what you want to see, right? As far as forecasted data, earnings per share, sales growth rate, all looks good there. Growth rate and earnings looks good. I'll take off these 2. Yeah, it's a phenomenal stock. Phenomenal stock. Just protect profits, that's all I'm going to say. Yeah, I know it's not SanDisk. They didn't say SanDisk. He said S&D, because I asked about that. But we could look at SanDisk. SNDK. Again, it was moving up in tangent. Now it's just getting a little overhyped, right? Getting a little overhyped. So be careful of that one. 20-day EMA, still above the 20, right? Still above the 20. You see even the stop price starting to get a little closer here. Earnings per share is rising. Great look at stock, but yes, the momentum has picked up quite a bit. I will say if it does break this, if I use a freehand line, kind of a roundabout here. So if I measure the bottom, if it does break, I see some momentum, I might measure that and maybe as a target, right? Otherwise, if it breaks this consolidation to the bottom and the 20-day EMA is going to be our first warning sign. But still, not a bad stock. SND, though, I like this one. It's still undervalued. That's the only difference. SNDK, overvalued now with that momentum. Here's Monster Beverage. Talk about a steady Eddie. That's a nice lower left, upper. I'm not going to lie. That is phenomenal. I get the value. It's overvalued. But look at the value. Moving up in tangent with the stock. I just like the nature of the steady Eddie. Lower left, upper right. Earnings per share on the rise. Let's look at the forecasted data here. 8%, 11%. Oh, I like it. Ryan, can NBIS as an honorable mention? I can do that because that's a stock I've talked about in the past. I'll have to see. But again, that guy, the big bear AI, the Nibius, the Iron, I said it 2 weeks ago now. Just be careful with those, you know. Let's see here. Monster looks good. There's no reason for concern. And honestly, if you don't hold Monster, might not be a bad one to look at. You know, I know the value's not there, but everything else, but that's a pretty chart, right? It almost looks like a ruler stock, right? I might qualify for one. We'd have to run the search and see. Now here's Mare. Nice steady Eddie too. And look at the value. This one looks a little better just because value, you know, keeping up the pace. Here, value's not up the pace, right? It's overvalued. If I was going to pick one just based off of, you know, general speaking here, like 5 and 14, probably go with Mare, honestly. I don't know if this 20-day EMA will hold, but this is interesting. It's a diversified company, so you have to look and see exactly what they do. But both of them look good. Here's Ken. I don't know who's holding this, but this stock went from $40. It's doubled, and look at the value. Dropped. Look at the earnings per share. Dropped. Actually went negative. So I'm going to tell you right now, that 20-day EMA, it has held as a nice pivot point. If it breaks that 20-day EMA, you got the stop right here, you know, the line in the sand. But yeah, I wouldn't be in a rush to sell it right now by any means. You can use something like Star Search if you'd like, help capture some momentum or, you know, at least protect some of these profits. But the stock has doubled in the last few months, right? So just keep an eye on that. I drink my coffee with Monster mixed instead of creamer. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Let's see here. Here's Iron. Again, this is a trend line. I mean, this has got to hold. I'm saying that 39.40. It's got to hold. If it doesn't, we will probably want to retest this prior swing low here. And if that breaks, this is my initial ideal entry point. We never reached that. So I kind of took some trades early and followed through on some momentum here. I think I'm down about 8% on it for 2026. Again, Iron is finding its place in two bad spots, you know, crypto, but they were smart and moved to the AI space, right? So AI bubble things, yeah, that could bring some concerns here. I don't know, I still like their big partnerships with Microsoft and stuff. That value, yes, a little bit more life. I wouldn't be in a rush to buy it. I still like it, but this has to hold here. This has to hold. I want to see that value increasing, right? You kind of see pretty stagnant since about November. Because ideally, I would have liked price action come down, value meet up somewhere in the middle. Still can happen, but just be careful. This one, I'm not going to be bullish on it right now. You can see it's got to hold that. If it breaks it, be careful. Here's CoreWeave. CoreWeave, again, broke the channel. The little fade came all the way back down, retested it, the top end of that channel. Kind of moving to the side right now. Ideally with CoreWeave, I was hoping it was going to stay in this channel. You know, value rise, you know, meet somewhere in the middle. But it's not there. Value is just flat. It's actually lower than it was back in this channel. See, the beginning of the channel is 16. It's at 10. Someone's down, what, 40%? Earnings per share is negative, moving in the right direction. There's a lot of risk here with this one. Right now, I want to be in a rush to buy it. But this, clearly, this is my level here. Top of the channel, bottom of this little consolidation. I've got 87 right now. It's 92. I need that to hold. Need that to hold, right? But what I need as far as an investment rather than just trading it, I need that value to go up. I need the value to go up. All right. NBIS, I will add that. And I'm actually going to add Big Bear AI, and then we'll wrap out with those two. Here's NBIS again, a little ascending channel. Once it broke it, there's that retest. Ooh, I would be careful. That's the retest and rejection. That's not what I want to see. I like the values moving up at least, but it's just so overvalued. It's almost $100. And I get it, Iron, NBIS, they've got big contracts. And if these contracts work, with the likes of Microsoft and some of the other, mega hyperscalers out there, their valuations probably will jump up, right? But paying a premium, for something that hasn't happened yet, I would minimize that premium as much as possible. I don't like this rejection from the bottom end of the channel, though. We try to get back, short-lived. All right, last stock today. Big Bear AI. That's what I told you about, the consolidation. We talked about this one for a while here. Perfect swing trades. I mean, this was swing traders' paradise here, but the trades got smaller and smaller and smaller. And look, the breakouts to the downside, right? I said this clear as day. This was a while back. When it broke this is what I'm looking for. Price to go down, value to rise. Somewhere we'll meet in the middle for the investment perspective, right? As far as the trading perspective, yeah, it would be bearish ever since it broke this, right? Especially with these retests, probably a good place to open up your put, especially this last one. That looked really pretty. Or contras, whatever it may be. As far as levels to try to catch some support here, probably looking somewhere in here. But again, I'm just not liking the Big Bear. Probably somewhere in here. That prior consolidation. So yeah, value can move up a little bit more. I'd see more investment opportunities, but right now it's not a good space. You don't want to be in software with price pressure on. BBI is a mess. BBI doesn't impress me. And Benny Wise, I wasn't bringing out Big Bear AI to impress you. This was a stock we talked about quite a bit for some swing trades. Clearly, that stuff worked out pretty well. But the investment, don't love it right now. And this is where you want to stick to the chart and not trade your heart, right? I don't trust anything with Big Bear. Fair enough. Monster is about to take correction. Just look at 5-year chart. Hold up real quick. Let's do that. MNST. 5-year chart. What you find for us here? The value, what I will say, for once, the value actually broke the prior high here, right? Ever since here, we've been off to the races. Never even got a real retest here. So that's $84 now. The Monster does roll over severely. I'm not talking about a little 20-day EMA test here. I'm talking about a severe pullback. This is where I would look at, these top of these prior swing highs here. And the value is moving right into there. But the fact that values just hit a 5-month year high, I like that. But yeah, the price, it probably could use a little breather there, right? You can't just keep going up, up, and up. Let's go 6 months. And you can see, look at that. Failed the retest by a little bit here. And just kept going up, up, and up, right? If you're in it, hey, as long as it holds a 20-day EMA, you can add a 40 or 50 there, get a little bit more wiggle room. Otherwise, our stop price is at the 75 currently. So that's where the sells would come into place. And if we did get some severe market pullback, I mean, just logically, that's the level I would look at. Otherwise, I'd probably be in here. About right in here. About 70 to 73. Okay. All righty. Let's get to it. Let's go back to the home page. Let's just see where the market is here. So it looks like the market still near session lows, around 734 on the Dow Jones. VectorVest Composite ticked up a little bit, 1.34. I think at the beginning of this was around 1.31. The NASDAQ looks like the only one that's actually improving a little bit. Let's just go real quick. I just want to see the intraday. U-stock graph. 1 day, intraday. Yeah, we're coming off those session lows as I expected. Okay. We'll see if Nvidia is the savior. Again, you guys are split about 50-50. Slightly more on the no side. So we'll see what happens here. All right, everybody. I do want to mention this before I head out real quick. Let me just pull this up. This is what we're going to end on today, if I still have it, which, there we go. Stock Market Masterclass. The deals, right? It's going to be the best pricing all year round. So if you want to take advantage of it, if you find this information useful and you see the potential really to make money, just go to vectorvest.com/offers. Pretty sure, oh, yeah. It's March 9th. So you got about 2 weeks, because I know we switched the date of Tampa, which is, caused renewal thing. So we extended it 2 weeks. So just throwing it out there. You know me, I love a good deal. And these are going to be the best deals you can get in the software all year long. On that note, everyone have a great day. I'll see you Wednesday.